Hello everyone. We are going to get started today with our Kid Blog webinar. We are starting with Van from, he is going to start with the blogging with elementary students, Gifted and Title I. And we are so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. I am in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Great. So I'll be taking you through a little intro here. So thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar today. We know you will get a lot of value out of this presentation and some great content you can go home or back to your class and implement into your Kid Blog class. At this time, you should hear me talking. If you are able to hear me, you are all set up and connected, and you can grab some note paper, sit back, and enjoy today's presentation. If you are experiencing connection issues at any time during the next 30 minutes, please try logging out of the webinar and reconnecting via the invite link. We will be recording this session, and it will be automatically sent to you in the next couple of days. And finally, if you have a question during the webinar, please enter the question using your control panel. We will either answer via text or verbally at the end of the webinar. So a little bit about Van. He has been teaching since 2000-2001 school year and has been teaching 4th grade and 5th grade for 7 years. He has spent 5 years as a technology resource teacher. He moved from Fairfax County to Lynchburg City. He has spent 3 years working in Gifted Center teaching 4th grade. Sorry about that. He's married to a 5th grade teacher in the same Gifted Center and has an 8-year-old son, 6-year-old daughter, and a 6-month-old puppy and kitten that were adopted together. Without further ado, I will pass the presentation over to Van to get started with his presentation on blogging with elementary Gifted and Title I students.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for that introduction. I should tell you that the puppy and kitty came along when we had a snow day, and after looking at pictures of our kids when they were little, we decided to adopt. That's just sort of how that went. So I'm talking to you today about blogging. And this is an idea I ran across at a conference a couple years ago and decided to dive in because I really felt like the idea of blogging really was the idea of writing, and writing a lot and writing consistently. I sort of am of the thought that like a muscle, writers need to exercise their muscle all the time. And so to me, blogging seemed to be that an easy way to do that. So I want to share with you some ways that we set it up, both with the Gifted Center to begin with, and then with our general education population after that. So if I can get my screen to move here, there it is. So in both cases, these were the purpose and goals that we had as a teacher. I started off wanting to have this authentic audience for kids, and I found that my students really responded well, knowing somebody might actually read it other than me. So they weren't just trying to impress me. Again, exercising that muscle. Yes.
1 second. Can you minimize your GoToWebinar screen?
Oh, yes, I think so. How do I do that?
The yellow.
All right. Okay. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Right. Rookie mistake. Right. So the part that intrigued me was the audience writing a lot, being able to use the blog to assess their writing and maybe some social studies content and maybe some literature content. Obviously, I thought they would be very engaged in this kind of thing, and it seemed to me I could differentiate my students and my writers differently through a blog. So I was transitioning out of Edmodo into Google Classroom at the time, and so that was sort of a goal I had. I wanted to be able to post things into Google Classroom, and they could then go to the blog and sort of an online presence, an online classroom. It was important for me in the beginning that I wanted them to learn how to write a good reflection, and when our early blog posts were about reflective writing, we even really started some of that in Google Classroom. I wanted them to think in terms of being a journalist, sort of the who, what, where, when, why, and how, so that their writing about things was full and complete. And we have tried to integrate writing as a routine into just about everything. I put some categories up here of my very first blog that writers wrote about. We did a novel study on Blood on the River, read that book, and Red Fern Grows. We dabbled in writing prompts. We had some debates, and we created beat writers that were sort of consistently around the school investigating happenings that were going on. So a lot of the projects were really sort of organic to them. They might have been, they might have wanted to talk about fantasy football or recipes. I found some good recipes actually through my students. It was easy to do book reviews. We turned the Bless a Book idea, where you stand in front of your classmates and share something, into a blog post about it. Science content, even their artwork. So in the gifted education world, we wanted to make sure that we're extending students with meaningful assignments and be able to assess content and, again, be reflective. So these are just some posts that I had put into Google Classroom, created a slide, asked them to walk through those slides and then post a blog about them, and a reflection on a project which was based on Blood on the River, where they then did a Google Lit trip, which was really pretty much a thick and large project, and I wanted to get their thoughts on how it went for them, what did they learn, what would they change, and ultimately for the beat writer idea, we brainstormed as a class topics, and then I would schedule them into a spreadsheet and they could go for it. So some of the meaningful assignments that I think I wanted to share this with you. This is my blog from 2 years ago, or a year ago, I guess. These are reviews. These were some of the things that they reviewed, anywhere from a movie to books, even Art Box. I'm not sure. I think that's a place in Virginia, and a diner, and even a dance studio. I really was intrigued when I was looking back at this at the Coachella review. I'm going to show that to you here, but here's just sort of a sample again of some of the topics that they chose to review. So I thought this was pretty fun. This is, again, a fourth grader at the time, so it struck me as a little bit interesting that she would know so much about Coachella. But you know, sometimes our kids get a little invested into things, and they understand things more than maybe we give them credit for. But I thought this was a nice post, and I didn't know much about Coachella until I read that. One of the assignments that we did was a persuasive writing assignment centered on the novel Secret Garden. We used a graphic organizer that we call the hamburger model, where you state an opinion and have your reasons, elaborations, and a conclusion. And so these, all these posts are those exact arguments based on a statement. If you feel sorry for yourself, can you change and grow? I wanted to share one of these with you. David had written what I thought was a well-organized, if not a little short, persuasive argument that I felt matched most of the graphic organizer. So in a way, I could assess his writing and say yes. But I was really happy. This was a comment. Mikasia commented on his, and he disagreed. And I really loved the idea that the blog allowed someone to have this disagreement, and maybe they end up talking about it in school the next day to clarify each other's position. It's almost like a lit circle, an online lit circle. So I'm pretty excited when those things happen. Another example for us is integrating literary analysis. This is really taking some poems and fairy tales or fables and having them read them. I used a website, Actively Learn, which has some of these articles and short stories and poems, put it into Google Classroom and had them read this and comment on it. And this is my post that I asked them to read and then comment on my blog post their answer to these questions. Why does this change? And so I'm going to share with you one that I like and one that maybe was not as good. But so Estelle, I think, does a decent job of talking and supporting her ideas of why she thinks what she thinks in this comment. And so I replied, as you may could see, that I thought this was a great reply on her part. This one is a little skimpy. So you do learn what your students write about the effort they're putting in or their understanding of something. So, you know, this is part of it. You have to see the good and the maybe not as good. This particular poem, Monument in Black, sort of fit inside of our overall theme of change for the year, overarching theme. And I think this was part of our Black History Month. And so the blog asked them to sort of relate their understanding of that poem to change. And this is a response. So she was good. She repeated the actual question that I asked and had, I think, a thoughtful response to it. So this is part of what I really like about the blog, but with 48 students, that can also take a lot of time to read. I had mentioned that we had these topics that we came up with that the students really, we all sat around and figured out what would be kind of fun things to blog about. At the end of the year, I asked my students to pick their top 6 blogs and write what they learned or what they thought their favorite. So you don't see that on here. It's one of the their last post of the year, their top 6 blog posts that they found. So these are just some examples of things that people blogged about, be it holidays or adopting a dog or some activities or events. There's one where a student fell off his bike over the weekend and he wrote about it. So sharing real experiences, knowing that real people are going to read it is a satisfied goal, I would say. I will tell you that we did open this up to public consumption in the sense that we sent notification home to parents and asked permission. So I had to opt into allowing the post to go public. And it was a limited public because it's a very specific website. And for those that were allowed, they would post publicly, and parents then could access the link and read through it. So an even bigger audience, really. This 3rd grader has decided this year to start a journalism club in the Kid Blog newspaper. And she was inspired by her 3rd grade teacher's newsletter that goes home every Monday. And in talking with her, they've established a routine of taking the information from Monday and writing about it on Tuesday and again on Friday, sort of as a preview of the week and a review of the week. And we're still working out some of the kinks. With a lot of different posts, this got away from us a little bit. We didn't see it. That was way back in February. We didn't see it but a week ago. So she was all too happy to really pick that up again. I wanted to share with you some ways that teachers have found content area and made some content area assignments. Civil War journals, teacher has students choose a soldier from one side of the conflict and write 5 journal entries about what their life is like in the Civil War. So it's all contained in one blog post with 4 comments after that. Same teacher. I think perspective might be her overall theme, looking at the Revolutionary War. Would you be a patriot? Would you be a loyalist? Why? Novel study extensions, so students that so this is sort of differentiated in that students who are finished and have maybe completed the assignments that everyone does, they get extensions to the blog post, and their questions, to maybe rewrite a chapter or what inspired you about a character. Certainly reflections on some of the school experiences they have. They do plays. They do a large production at the end of the year, and as they finish that up, reflecting on last year they did Beauty and the Beast, and so there was a lot of reflecting on their experience going through that. And putting together short stories. We enter a Young Writers contest in February, and so we add those short stories to our blog posts. And I'll try and show these to some of you. Recently, we started asking the teachers in our general ed classrooms to give it a whirl, which sometimes, with the pressures of testing, they sometimes don't want to see it. But I borrowed this idea from a kid blog post I saw a bit ago, the gratitude blog, and this is one of the students in 4th grade. This is in a high free and reduced lunch, and I think it's interesting to hear what students who are less privileged are grateful for, and it's sort of interesting to get that take. We learn a lot from them that way. This teacher I think is really cool. I'm going to run a short little video over here. This is her Full of Love blog post, and she's asking them to write about 10 things that it goes a little fast, 10 things that they really love. And you can see she has 43 comments, and these are all comments on her blog post, students of hers that are responding to that. Some of it may be more developed than others, but everyone is participating, and there's a lot of "I love my teacher," which as a teacher I think you probably like to hear. That got going a little fast there. So there you go. I love my teacher. This particular same teacher, she runs the Dragon blog, we call it, and she's going back in time and asking students to say, what is your life going to be like in the next few weeks or months? What problems or conflicts will you run into? So again, it's sort of how well did you learn the content? What can you say about it? Can you walk in those shoes, or imagine it anyways? We always sort of think that good historians can really tell that story, can empathize. One teacher has used it as a review for the weather test. What do you know? What can you put in there? And same teacher asking sort of a reflection question, what have I learned that connects to my life? So these are just some samples of things that are happening. We have in the beginning, and this is largely true whether it's 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, have to be very cognizant of what commenting turns into. And so I wanted to share with you some examples. My favorite really is this 3rd grader who said this blog is to Charlie only, except all 25 of them can see that. So we think that's kind of funny. And we talk about how your blog posts, your comments are not like a chat room. So it's fun to, in the beginning, take some of these early comments and say, these kind of no capital I drives us crazy, that this is not a chat session. You're not going back and forth. So those are just some things that I wanted to share with you about that. I'm going to try and show you the blog post here. I need to make sure that you can still see that. So I'm going to open that up, change that to there, and hopefully you can see this blog post. Is there a way I can confirm you guys do that?
Yeah,
Is
we
that
can
good?
see it. Yep.
Okay, good. Have we lost everybody? They fall asleep? I hope not. I wanted to show you this 5th grade teacher, and So this is her setup. Let me see if I can drag that over here. So these are her categories, and those are the Civil War journals I was telling you about. They she has novel studies with these books. They write poems and reflection. They they created these digital breakouts, and they had to then reflect on those sessions. So these are all reflections on the process of creating a digital breakout. And so here is those Civil War journals I was telling you about. I can pick one. Let me go up here and get to there. So journal entry, that this is kind of funny because this Civil War is not the Civil War that they're supposed to be talking about. Anyways, so write 3 new things you learned during the slideshows. Oh, this is a different assignment. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be the journals, but she miscategorized it. Nonetheless, it's a good example of a reflection. And so we talked about extending novels for students that finish and have time for more, maybe deeper thought. So reading Each Little Bird That Sings, this novel extension, is comparing the character to another boy in a different book series. So I think that looks maybe a little unfinished, and that's what she wrote back. So there you go, on the spot stuff. I think at this point maybe I could answer some questions. I would certainly try if that works for everybody. Let me know what you think.
Yep, I will switch it over to Q&A here.
I want to go back to, oops.
All right. Thank you for that lovely presentation. It was very insightful.
Sorry, I feel like I talked forever.
No, you're good. We are now opening up the floor for your questions. If you have a question for either Van or myself, please type it in the question box on your control panel. So let's see what we have so far. All right. We have a question for you, Van. How challenging is it to initially set up blogs?
Well, the hard part is, for me, the hard part is scaffolding the completeness and the appropriateness of, I'm not sure if this is what this question is getting at, but there's 2 parts to it. The setup part, where you create the blog and you load in the names, I don't find that difficult from a technical process. I'd like to load in their names so that they're only first names, and we have restrictions on avatars and things like that. To me, that part is not terribly difficult. The harder part is trying to curtail comments that just go crazy. At one point, the 3rd grade teacher had 200 posts and over 1,000 comments, and we moderate all of those. So to moderate 1,000 comments is a lot. And the first time I went through this, it got so out of control because I didn't teach it properly at the beginning that I closed down the site, told them that the site crashed, and we restarted. And I did a better job. So for me, that's the biggest, most important part with elementary students, is making sure it's not this chat room arrangement, and that what they're writing is meaningful, because I'm taking time for it to be a meaningful assignment. I want them to take it seriously as a meaningful writer, and it gives them choice, and that's what I really want for them to have.
Great. And how many teachers are using KidBlog within your school?
Currently, we have 6, 7. We have one teacher who's teaching 3 5th grade classes. That's why she has 40 some odd students. in theory, one would argue that each of those three teachers are teaching, but she's got three. So we have seven. I have two schools, so I have seven teachers in one school, and I have four teachers in another school, and they're all elementary.
Okay. And are students required to submit a certain number of blogs?
We have not made requirements about numbers of blogs, but we have had blog posts with due dates, uh, particularly the beat writers, where we started our topic ideas back in March, and we said coming out of spring break we had 6 blog posts that we had time for. They were due every Friday. You'd get a new topic on Monday to research and think about. Your blog post was due Friday. So to some extent, I guess that's yes, but I don't think that any of us have said you must have 12 blog posts in a 30-day period. Really, it's very assignment based.
Okay. Let's see. We have another one. You mentioned there are lots of posts to read as students become prolific authors. Does this add stress as a teacher knowing how much there is to read, or relieve stress knowing students' peers are participating as an audience and also providing feedback?
It does add some stress, and what I've learned is sort of the quantity versus quality argument. And in a sense, it's about how you set up the assignment and what you want out of it. Is it simply that you want them to comment on it, or to have written something and you're not really interested as much in the quality, just so much as they took the time to read something and had a comment, versus the quality, whereas, you know, reading the fable and asking to tie it to the overarching theme of change, that's a quality argument. So you can really bog yourself down with lots of quality writing types of things, whereas exercising the writer's muscles, for me, is good enough in much of the time. So I would say, to avoid the stress, and I was finding myself buried by reading blog posts. Like, I would read every night 5 or 6 blog posts, try to comment on them, and that can get old quickly. I would rather have a meaningful post once a unit as opposed to 4 or 5 times a unit, but still have them writing and commenting on each other's posts, and I can spot check that.
Okay. I think we have another question here. Have you used KidBlog with a flipped classroom? Is it possible to input a lesson in the KidBlog format?
It is, and that's one of the things that I like about it, though I haven't added a flip video into KidBlog, but I know you can because I've added other videos. And I think that's an interesting thought. Typically, I have done that through Google Classroom, where they watch the video and then respond on KidBlog, but there's no reason why I couldn't post a video of my own making in my own blog post, make them aware of the assignment, and either comment directly on my blog post on the content they've seen, or create a new post and respond to something. So yes, it's very doable.
Okay. And then I think last question. Will students be able to use KidBlog over the summer months?
The way we have it set up, yes. We started our yearly subscription in August, and many of these 3rd graders and 4th graders will roll and continue rolling through and have the chance to blog over the summer. 5th graders that are moving on to 6th grade, they're probably not going to, so we end up archiving that class. I guess we could give them the opportunity, but I think really for 3rd, going to 4th, and 4th moving on to 5th, we like to keep them writing over the summer. And even over spring break, when I traveled over spring break, I posted a picture, sort of a where in the world am I, with clues, and, you know, a picture of an airplane, and, you know, just to see if they're engaged and looking at it and responding to it. So yes, the short answer is yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, I think that's the end of our Q&A here.
Great.
So thank you so much for spending some time listening to our KidBlog webinar this afternoon. If you enjoyed the topic or would like to learn more about KidBlog or blogging in the classroom, we have some great upcoming webinars this month and then into May, so you want to check those out. As a reminder, the recording for this session will be sent to you automatically within the next couple of days. If you have any questions on using KidBlog in your classroom or school, please send them directly to membership@kidblog.org. Thanks for tuning in. This
Thank you,
completes
everybody.
today's webinar. Thanks, Van.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.